Hi everybody, we have another video here for you today in our Understanding Station 11 series, and today we are going to take one of the three sample paragraphs that are written in our study guide. It's called the Ultimate Study Companion to Station 11, and it's available at our website at englishlab.com.au/resources, and you can buy it there to see the other two sample paragraphs and all of the other material, some of which we've referenced in these videos. But today I'm going to take you through this paragraph and explain to you what makes it effective and explain to you some of the great things that have been done in writing this paragraph that really show the essence of understanding of the text in terms of not just what it's about and what Emily St. John Mandel might be saying, but also how she has said it in the way that she has constructed the text. And so I'm going to read through it. I'll include a copy of this paragraph in the description if you want to copy it and put it into your own Word document or Google Docs or whatever, and do whatever you need to do with it in printing it and looking at it and so on. But I'm going to explain to you what makes each sentence tick and how you can take on these lessons to improve your own analytical writing, because you'll notice that there is not a wasted sentence. You'll notice that there's no point at which I get into this paragraph and I think, oh, well, we'd be better off if that sentence didn't exist, or, you know, there was no point to that sentence even being there. So let's jump in right from the start. Of all the varying consequences of the pandemic, it is the revelation of society's reliance upon technology that is most shocking to the survivors. And so right from the outset, you'll notice that there is a clear contention and point to this paragraph, that of all of the things that happened within the Georgia flu, it is society's reliance upon technology. So clearly this paragraph has a point. It is going to be making the point that technology was the major thing that people relied upon, and that was what was most shocking to these people. So let's see about how we go about analysing that idea and exploring that idea in further depth. The deconstruction of society is rapid, yet also occurs in a staged manner, as facilities that humans had come to completely rely on slowly became useless, plunging the society into further turmoil that is still not overcome some 2 decades later. I'm going to take a break here just to mention this little second sentence that exists here. And one thing that happens quite often when I release videos like this, be it for the comparative or for language analysis or for section A or whatever it might be for the exam or SACS, is that students often really want a formula. And they'll often say, okay, so what sentence goes where? And you'll notice here that I've been really clear in that message statement that I've made in that first sentence, the topic sentence, whatever it might be. But then here there is that extra elaboration that exists within it. So I don't want people to be thinking that I'm saying you must have this, but I do want you to understand that before I've got into any further evidence, there's a further sentence that really outlines the point of what the paragraph is all about. That society, rapidly decays, but at the same time it happens in stages, and that by doing that, Mandel is able to talk about what we've become to rely upon, and how she can explore that in further depth and detail. And so you'll notice that so far, after these first two sentences, there's no evidence or analysis that's been put forward. Rather, it's just really setting up this idea. Now, there is no recipe to a perfect paragraph. There is no way that I'm saying to you, you must write a sentence like I did to start with, and then you must write a second sentence that's along those same sort of lines. But it could be something that you might look to do if you're looking to really explore an idea and really give further elaboration to your point. And if you can't think of further elaboration to the point that you've made, you might be questioning whether it is worth being able to write an entire paragraph about in the first place, if you're really aiming for that top-notch analysis. But let's continue on with this third sentence and see how we get into this evidence and the analysis of that evidence. The perpetual hum of Toronto fades away due to the absence of electricity and other technologies. Now, you'll notice that if we looked at that sentence in isolation, it is purely evidence. There's nothing else to that. The perpetual hum, it's a really great quote to use. Mandel uses that term to talk about technology and talking about the perpetual hum of the city. And of course, I've just called it Toronto because that's the city she's referring to. But you'll notice there that I don't say anything else in that sentence. I'm just setting up what I want to be able to say later on. It is purely about giving really good, clear, specific evidence that a city has a perpetual hum and that perpetual hum is gone once electricity and other technologies have faded away. Through Jeevan's experiences in the early days of the pandemic, Mandel conveys the panic of those who try to flee and the steady decline into disorder as the television begins running alternate programming, the freeways clog, and eventually the electricity and the water both run out. And so if you take a look at this sentence, you'll notice that it begins with the word through, which if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll notice that I'm a big fan of that word, because if we can talk about through this character, we can show an understanding of how the author has included that character's experience or included whatever it is that we're saying through this. It's a really great way of making sure that you're on track with analysing in a way where you're talking about what the author has done. So it's through Jeevan's experiences. She conveys the panic of those who try to flee. And so that idea of conveying an idea. And then later on talking about, the fact that there is a steady decline into disorder as the television begins running alternate programs. So it's not this idea of we always have to have a quote and the quote equals this idea. Before that, I had said, this idea of a steady decline into disorder as the television begins to run alternate programming. So it doesn't always have to be a perfect quote. It's just a reference to something that we know happens within Station 11 and what that might be symbolic of and what it might be really representing. Of course, the freeways clogging and the electricity and water both running out. You'll notice that the only two words that are real quotes from that are the words run out. But freeways clogging and water and electricity and so on, I don't always have to have the perfect quote to do that. Often it's better to make sure that you have quotes rather than just referring to things that happen. But there is space for you to be able to use both within there. And I want you to make sure that you're not always tied to, well, if it's not a quote, then it's not evidence. Look at how this next sentence starts as well. And one thing I'll encourage you to do by the time you finish reading this paragraph is to take maybe the first 2 or 3 words from each sentence and take a look at how that works. Of all, the deconstruction, through Jeevan, Mandel explains. Every one of these sentences starts in a different way because all of them have an operation towards what they're trying to say. Again, it's not a recipe saying, okay, I must start this first sentence with this or everything like that. But I want you to look at how each of the sentences are moving towards analysis. Mandel explains how people started walking through the traffic, creating an image of purposeless vehicles and people who have had to quickly become self-sufficient. That the first year on the road is regarded as so horrifying outlines that without technology, society will rapidly descend into chaos as humans struggle to survive and communicate through their own instincts. Mandel further exposes humans' reliance upon technology through her allusion to fuel going stale within the first years as people clung to the energy from the world they knew. Take a look at this sentence in isolation. Again, it starts with Mandel. It starts with the author's surname, with this idea of always analysing her intentions, what she is saying, how she is saying it. Mandel further exposes humans' reliance upon technology. That's an interpretation. That's an understanding of what she is saying. But then it's followed with through, her allusion to fuel. Now that's allusion, alluding to something, talking about something, mentioning, fuel going stale. And you'll notice there that the only quote that exists within that entire sentence is the word stale. It's not quotes that make the essay. It's not quotes that make the paragraph. It's more about what we can say about those quotes. And this idea that Mandel exposes humans' reliance upon technology by the fact that she mentioned that fuel will go stale. They were still reliant upon those technologies in the post-pandemic world, and things started to go poorly once those things started to run out. The lack of technology becomes prevalent in the lives of the survivors as the absence of electric light. Now, mentioning that allows me to say, okay, I've already mentioned that there was fuel that went stale. Now I'm talking about the absence of electric light. I'm building on the evidence that I've already had there, and I'm making a further point as to what I really want to say about how these people interact with technology. That can be the difference between someone who's at a low to mid-range with their essay writing by saying, well, this happened and it means this, and then that happened and it meant that. It's that idea of building upon an idea and dragging in different forms of evidence from different parts of the novel that can really show that overall understanding of the idea and what it's really all about. As seen as shocking to Jeevan, and Dieter finds himself dreaming of planes and searching for them in the sky overhead. Now that's just nice because it's got Jeevan and Dieter, two characters who within the novel, within the world of Station 11, don't even know the other one exists. Yet we've coupled those two pieces of evidence together to make the same point in a way of showing I have an overall understanding of what this text is all about based on the experiences and the quotes of two different characters who come together to say the same thing, really. This next sentence starting with the word thus. It's a word I'd encourage you to use not just as some sort of shortcut, but rather I'll make sure that you are using evidence that is there before you use that word to say, okay, I've talked about this, I've talked about that, I've talked about this, thus, and then you come to a point. And it can be a really great way of making sure you're on track. I've talked about Jeevan, and I've talked about the fact that he is, shocked by the absence of electric light. I've talked about Dieter finding himself dreaming of planes. And so by bringing up both of those things and the fact that the person reading my paragraph has still got those ideas of fuel going stale in their mind, I'm now coming to this point where I say, thus, Mandel presents such technological advances, such as electricity and aviation, as achievements of society, but also as a safety net that provides comfort. And so within that sentence, I've got that direct breakthrough where I'm answering a question, I'm being clear in what I'm trying to say throughout the paragraph, and I'm really making sure that I am direct in what I am trying to analyze in terms of what I feel Mandel is saying through the text. This is also examined through Kirsten. And so it's just furthering the idea, doubling down and saying, okay, I'm so confident with this idea, I can bring up another character and another form of evidence that shows it off. And her pondering about the internet, which was everywhere, and her wondering whether it is still there. Aside from the terrible consequences of a lack of technology, Mandel also outlines the reliance upon it through the hope and excitement of the return of lights at the conclusion of the novel. The unique memory of Kirsten's of New York City, a sea of electric lights as seen from the aeroplane window, exhibits a human view of light and electricity as a sign of progress and safety. That the survivors of the pandemic look to re-establish such a system further underscores the need for such facilities and the devastating impacts of the loss of technology upon societal progress. Mandel outlines that so many things were lost in the collapse. However, it is the ability to feel secure through the benefits of technology that is the most impactful upon the people left behind. And you'll notice there that within that last sentence, it's that way of taking all of the evidence that has been brought up, all of the quotes, all of the different characters, and bringing it back to the point that was made at the start about a reliance upon technology, and then talking at the end about the benefits of technology being the most impactful upon a person, meaning that the opening sentence started off with what the paragraph was about. The evidence and the analysis within was all about the characters and the different ways in which Mandel has shown that. you've got an advantage when it comes to Station 11, because if you're talking about Dieter and you're talking about Jeevan, you're talking about two characters who have never met. And then if you're talking about Kirsten, she's really never met Jeevan other than when she was 8 years old and she can't remember it. So therefore, when you're talking about all of these characters, if you're talking about them and giving evidence from them in a way that all contributes to the one idea, you're showing an overall understanding of what the novel is all about. And you're showing that in a way where these characters that are completely unrelated all come together to show that same idea. And if you can end it in a way that has been done there in this paragraph, you're showing that you have that overall understanding of the idea. So guys, I hope you're enjoying our series of videos when it comes to Station 11 and understanding it. I would love to field any questions that you have. We already have another paragraph that we've written last year about Station 11, so you make sure to check that one out too. The only difference with this one is that it is a part of the study guide that we have provided for students that are studying Station 11. We also have another 2 paragraphs that go along with this, and as well as a whole bunch of resources when it comes to important chapters, characters, ideas and interpretations and other things. You can find the link to that study guide and study companion in the description to this video. As always, please like this video if you've got something from it. Please share it with other friends of yours that are studying the same text as you so that they can get something from it. And if you have any further questions, or if you're querying anything that was mentioned in this video, make sure you put it down there in the comments and we'll get to it as soon as we can. All the best for the rest of your studying and all the best for your VCE journey. We'll see you next time.